I'd just like to say good afternoon to everybody here, and thanks very much to the whole Compare team for a well-organised webinar, Maya, Tom and James. To introduce myself, James just has, but my name is Kean Williams. I'm the Global Head of Operations from CONTEMI Solutions. I've been in financial services, broker and wealth management space for over 34 years. I know the picture on here suggests that I have youthful good looks, but this is a true fact. I have been around for a long time. For the last 20 years, I've worked in financial services from an IT and a systems perspective. And importantly, from the context of this presentation, however, I'm a client of firms like yourselves and others in the wider wealth management community. Next slide, please. So today, I'll be talking about clients' digital expectations from their advisors. And then I guess you can decide if you are meeting those expectations or not. If not, what could you be doing differently? I do, of course, have some research-backed insights, not as many as Tom, but I'm definitely trying to complement what Tom has just presented. I'm not a renowned expert in the field. I'm very much an interested party in how this could evolve. Next slide, please. So before we dive into client expectations, let's have a quick look at your customer types. I hope you would agree that your client base includes all four of these generations. I would like to say I fit into the millennial category, but you probably won't believe it. That's a second joke about my age. But unfortunately, I'm Gen X, and I will talk about it from this perspective. However, I also live with my 75-year-old father, a boomer. And I can give you his boomer insight, but it actually isn't that different from that you would expect from a millennial or a Gen X. He frequently moans at me about apps, and as a result, switches homes for his money. I guess that could surprise you, and suggest all four categories are voting with their feet. Perhaps he should be giving this presentation, but I wouldn't want to subject you to his language. For me, it's like a living Harry Enfield sketch every day. So currently, boomers and Gen Xers control more wealth and are living longer lives. Gen X are in their peak earnings window and are the core of the mass affluent market that wealth managers need to maintain and grow. Next in line, of course, is the millennials. You have heard this before, but according to Forbes, an estimated $30 trillion of wealth will be transferred from the baby boomers to Gen X and millennials over the coming decade. In the spirit of keeping my dad in this presentation, I hope that will not be the case for me, and he sticks around to give me his digital application advice for many years to come. Unlike boomers, where the current wealth sits, Gen X and millennials have grown up with technology. From game consoles to smartphones, these generations manage their lives digitally. They grew up with the internet. Instead of taxis, they use Uber. Instead of TV, they listen to podcasts, watch videos, they watch Netflix, and they even game online. And when it comes to investing, they prefer self-service apps. So what are each generation of these clients expecting from you, their advisors? Next slide, please. Well, clients, regardless of generation, want transparency, personalization, speed of service, and ease of use. Yes, Dad again, but I can tell you he doesn't like the Outlook app. He prefers Google Calendar. And he's currently looking for a bank with an app that allows him to pay checks in so that he doesn't have to get out of his chair. The two high street giants that he banks with do not provide this, but Barclays do. Why is this? And if you have any influence, please help me, else I have to hear about this every day, and it would allow Dad to watch 24/7 cricket. But you don't have to take my word for it. A recent survey of 2,325 investors across prosperity, ages, locations proved it. Here's what they found. 49% of investors say acting in their best interest is the most effective way for advisors to build a relationship with them. 58% of investors want personalized financial planning. So perhaps robo's gone. 40% of investors say digital is a great priority, but I guess that leaves 60% who do not. Too many firms are succumbing to the impulse that they must rush immediately to the perceived demands of millennials. While millennials can't be ignored, the industry needs to consider the similar demands and much larger opportunity presented by Generation X, me, and Boomers' Dad. A recent research also found strong interest among Gen Xers and Boomers for increasing communication via text and even video chat, with nearly 50% of respondents indicating that they would use these platforms if they were available. We have become a very lazy generation. If you fail to make it easy, we will not bother, and you have just lost us, possibly forever, regardless of your financial performance. And I think with Tom's statistics there, you saw that there's a lot of different reasons for people leaving, and financial performance stays fairly steady. It turns out that the wealthy boomers look for a very similar experience to what their millennial grandchildren expect, including fast transactions, transparency, and mobile first. And thanks to emerging technology, it's not hard nor complicated to deliver on all of these. Next slide, please. So we talked about clients' expectations, and you can decide if you are meeting these. But let's look at the reality. The reality is that while digital is one of the top 3 reasons to choose a wealth manager, customers are not happy with their digital experience. Various surveys have highlighted the disconnect between what advisors think their clients want and the reality of the situation. We found that advisors significantly underestimated the digital prowess and expectations of their clients across generations. Only 37% give their wealth manager a top mark for digital experience. To be honest, I think 37% is actually quite high. 25% will consider switching from you based on that dissatisfaction. It is now possible with API technology to aggregate all of our wealth from different places. However, 44% remain sure that they do not get this. Next slide, please. Some advisors provide a client portal and they think they are meeting the digital experience expectations. It's not as simple as creating a shiny mobile app that allows your customers to check on their portfolio, to check potential changes since the day before. It requires a complete reinvention of the client experience. How do you onboard customers? How do you request documents? How do financial advisors interact? Do you have a conversational UI? And on and on. User-friendly interfaces across the wealth management space ensure that even the least tech-savvy customers, regardless of the generation gap, can benefit from digital solutions. Everyone in the value chain benefits from having one central point of secure collaboration around important information, be it financial advisors, professionals, or family members. The ability to onboard without any human touch points is the potential highest demand of clients. Personally, I would certainly prefer to simply apply for a new account from my armchair. And at worst, I have to get up and fetch my driving license to prove my identity through a camera on my phone. And in Dad's case, he has to pause the cricket to ask me to go and fetch his license. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for advisors? It's very simple. If you invest in digitalization now, it makes you ready for all 4 generations and their evolving needs, even my dad's. Think client experience, whether that be how they interact with your world, but also where their data is and how they can do more with the data from a self-service perspective. Next slide, please. So here's how the shift towards digital holistic advice is paying off for wealth managers. Very similar again to the sort of things that Tom was showing. You can see all relatively similar numbers in terms of return on investment, suggesting all are worthy of that. Digital customer onboarding sits at 27.8%. However, when looking at the ROI, many firms struggle to give it the value unless the volume of new clients or new accounts merit it. But if you were dealing with wealthy people, surely their experience is worth it, regardless of them being 1 in 100 or 1 in 100 million. Next slide, please. So you may or may not be wondering what CONTEMI's role in all this is. Well, we have a platform called Wealth Intelligence, designed specifically to meet the digital needs of customers across the wealth management lifecycle. From digital onboarding to a self-service, simple client portal where it's possible to interface to your wealth manager. My final note, and despite all of the evidence, remember that there is an emotional attachment to money. And this means people still want to be able to talk to people. Technology can just augment that attachment. Just like to say thank you to everybody for listening to my presentation. I hope that I provoked some thoughts. Please add any questions in the chat. James will help me to respond at a later time. I'd just like to say take care and thanks for listening.